Due to streaming rights, the following is not included in our AMS After Dark no ads plan, and will play with an ad before and after the presentation.
This video is sponsored by ʻneɪvəl. The founders of ʻneɪvəl understand firsthand the challenges of finding an instrument pick that expresses your personal style, and they also know how infuriating it can be when you get your favorite pick stuck in your ukulele, guitar, or other instrument. ʻneɪvəl empowers everyday musicians to use their passion for pick fashion and pick extraction to earn money and reach their goals right from the comfort of their own fretboards. At ʻneɪvəl, they love picks so much that their business model is even shaped like one. This provides their passionate pick entrepreneurs the opportunity to earn cash bonuses when they recruit new team members. I've been a pick retailer, extraction technician, and recruiter with ʻneɪvəl for just under a year now, and this is a company whose values I can truly get behind. If any of you would like to join the ʻneɪvəl family, please reach out to me. I'm always happy to string along new members. In his 1943 book, Being and Nothingness, existentialist philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre introduced the concept of le regard, or the gaze, wherein the act of one human being gazing at another produces a subjective difference in social power between the gazer and the person being gazed at. The person subjected to the gaze experiences uncanny anxiety upon becoming aware that they are a visible object, that they inhabit a physical body that can be seen and looked at. Thus, the gazer holds agency over the emotional response and self-perceived autonomy of the person upon whom they gaze. French psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan later extrapolated that such an emotional response might even result from the perceived gaze of an inanimate object, so it's reasonable to assume that the gaze of any sentient creature like, say, a cat, could also elicit such a response. The 1970s saw a shift in discourse to the roles of gender in the gaze. This began with the second episode of the 1972 docuseries Ways of Seeing.
Men dream of women. Women dream of themselves being dreamt of. Men look at women. Women watch themselves being looked at.
As the episode unfolds, art critic John Berger invokes the concept of the gaze in discussion of the female nude in the European oil painting tradition, ultimately asserting that women in such artworks were most often depicted not as themselves, but as objects of male idealization or desire. 3 years after that episode aired, feminist film theorist Laura Mulvey famously applied the concept of the gaze in a similar manner to critique the traditional representations of women in cinema. In her seminal 1975 essay titled Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema, Mulvey coins the term male gaze to describe the notion of, quote, woman as image, man as bearer of the look, end quote. Mulvey writes, quote, in a world ordered by sexual imbalance, pleasure in looking has been split between active/male and passive/female. The determining male gaze projects its fantasy onto the female figure, which is styled accordingly, end quote. In keeping with the theme of tonight's panel, my presentation will explore in depth just one facet of this topic, a subcategory of the male gaze that I call the navel gaze. I will outline 4 normative navel gaze types: the navel gaze, the navel gaze, the navel gaze, and the navel gaze. Despite its seemingly microscopic lens, my presentation will probe a wealth of intersections between umbilici, semen, sight, sexuality, and gender politics. We'll begin with the type 1 navel gaze. In her aforementioned essay on the male gaze, Mulvey explains that, quote, in their traditional exhibitionist role, women are simultaneously looked at and displayed, with their appearance coded for strong visual and erotic impact, so that they can be said to connote to be looked at-ness, end quote. The type 1 navel gaze emphasizes the aspect of erotic impact by drawing the male gaze specifically to the female navel. An example of this can be found in the music video for Captain Jack. An eponymous single released by German Eurodance group Captain Jack shortly after their initial formation in 1995.
Hey, yo, Captain Jack. Hey, yo, Captain Jack. Bring me back to the railroad track. Bring me back to the railroad track.
Inspired by his previous service in the U.S. Army, frontman Francisco Gutierrez, known as Frankie G, came up with the idea to write a dance track based on a drill routine. This would become the group's signature style, influencing both their music and Frankie G's wardrobe. As you can see in the video, the female navel features as a prevalent and recurring focus of the male gaze. Meanwhile, the specific branch of the armed forces that the video portrays is somewhat nebulous. Frankie G's uniform is a mismatch of stylized military fashion elements, drawing predominantly on the U.S. Army dress uniform and an extremely artistic rendering of a hat worn by the U.S. Marines. The opening of the video features a sign at the entrance of a U.S. Army barracks, but the lyrics refer briefly to the quote-unquote Air Force rap. Given that the video contains no overtly maritime elements, it is perhaps most clear which branch of the military it does not aim to portray: the Navy. This distinguishes this example from the next type of navel gaze that I will discuss. Type 2, the navel gaze. Turning again to Mulvey's essay on the male gaze, she declares that, quote, "Woman displayed as sexual object is the leitmotif of erotic spectacle, from pin-ups to striptease, from Ziegfeld to Busby Berkeley. She holds the look, plays to and signifies male desire," end quote. Such erotic spectacle serves as the entire framework for our next example. In 2017, producers of the online naval warfare-themed game World of Warships created a music video titled Pin-Up in the Navy, in celebration of the 3rd anniversary of the game's release. The video uses its naval setting as a springboard for overt female objectification. In one scene, we see a torpedo with an image of a woman drawn on it being wheeled past a young male sailor. The drawn woman winks at the sailor before a flesh and blood version of her taps the young sailor on the shoulder. This scene blurs the boundaries between animacy and inanimacy, and between fantasy and reality, all in service to the desires of the young male sailor. Furthermore, it could certainly be argued that the literal depiction of the woman on a phallic, self-destructive torpedo might symbolize the threat of castration. Throughout the video, we also see examples of more classic fetishistic scopophilia, in which the woman is hypersexualized from a person into a collection of aesthetically ideal female body parts, such as legs and feet. In contrast with the Captain Jack example, however, the female navel does not feature here. There are moments when expectations of female navel sightings are created through the exposure of women's partial midriffs, only to be tantalizingly thwarted by high-waisted garments. The partial midriff-bearing clothing's purpose in this video as a facilitator of the male gaze is reinforced by the fact that such clothing serves no concrete utilitarian function to a woman cooking in a kitchen. On the contrary, such a wardrobe choice can be viewed as running counter to a woman's safety within the hazardous setting of a kitchen. As the saying goes, you should never fry bacon while naked. Or I mean, you can if you want, whatever floats your boat. It's worth noting that this is hardly a unique instance of mystique surrounding a barely hidden female navel. In August 2014, the website New York Mag published an article titled, "There's No Proof Taylor Swift Has a Belly Button," which featured several photographs of Swift in clothing that exposed her stomach slightly above her navel. People posted additional photos of Swift in similar navel-obscuring outfits all over the internet in the remaining months of 2014. But in January 2015, Swift posted a photo of herself on Instagram, in which she is seen in a bikini posing on a boat with friends. This photo marked the first time that Swift had publicly shared a photo of herself that exposed her navel. In June 2015, Redditor That's Not Me posted a photo of Swift to the Photoshop Battles subreddit, inviting other users to digitally alter the image. The original photo shows Swift pulling down the waistband of her shorts to reveal her belly button, and it has since circulated virally as a Photoshop meme. Our next example appears in the music video for a famous 1979 track by the Village People, In the Navy. The music begins with a clapping sequence, followed by an instrumental opening in which various members of the group step aside to reveal lead singer Victor Willis dressed in a naval uniform and gazing through a telescope. This may seem like a straightforward example of the Type 2 navel gaze on the surface. However, while previous examples of navel gaze types 1 and 2 have followed the principle of the male gaze being heterosexual in nature, this example by the Village People diverges from that principle. The group was named in reference to the famously gay Manhattan neighborhood, Greenwich Village, and its members portray macho gay fantasy personas regardless of their real-life sexual preferences. Thus, I would suggest that this video actually exemplifies an entirely different type of navel gaze. Type 3, the navel gaze. Taking a brief foray into the weeds, we will see that the clapping passages in this example particularly lend themselves to homoerotic interpretation. Here I have transcribed the opening clapping passage. This can be translated into Morse code as or OOQJ. Naturally, I thought QJ, which led me to look up QJ on Urban Dictionary, and the result is probably too offensive to share. Definitely don't look that up during this convenient pause while you roll your eyes about the share pun that I just made. Definitely not going to wait for you to look up this insanely offensive definition. I would never do that. Okay, well, I hope that was enough time for you to not look that up. Anyway, the clapping passage from the opening returns twice more during the track, accompanied by a chant that all but affirms my Morse code reading. Thus, I would argue that the official music video for this track is an example of the Type 3 navel gaze. In addition to similarly exemplifying Type 3, two televised performances of this track exemplify yet another type of navel gaze. Type 4, the navel gaze. These performances on 1979 episodes of Musikladen and Top Pop both feature lead singer Victor Willis in a naval uniform that leaves his navel exposed. Whereas in the Musikladen performance, his entire torso is exposed. In the Top Pop performance, only his navel is bare. Willis uses binoculars in both of these performances, but his gaze through them is, again, not implied to be heterosexual. Thus, these performances exemplify the Type 3 navel gaze and the Type 4 navel gaze. A similar example in the realm of ludomusicology is the appearance of the Village Peoples in the Navy in the 2021 version of the game Just Dance. In this example, the associations between the village people and the type 3 navel gaze are buttressed by the outfits of the characters on screen. Of particular intrigue is the man in the carnival costume on the far right, whose navel is exposed. Like the village people's previously described TV performances of In the Navy, this example mixes navel gaze types 3, the navel gaze, and 4, the navel gaze. Turning now to a more complex example of navel gaze type mixing, another music video for In the Navy exemplifies types 1, 2, and 3. Produced for the closing credits of the 1996 naval comedy film Down Periscope, this video features the village people and members of the film's cast, including Kelsey Grammer and Lauren Hawley. Grammer's character, a lieutenant commander in the Navy, gazes through the periscope. This is a heterosexual male gaze, aimed at Hawley's character, who is clad in an outfit exposing her navel. Thus, the gaze of Grammer's character is both navel, type 2, and navel, type 1. Though gay fantasy elements are toned down in the attire of the village people here, their fame and the Morse code significance of the clapping section nevertheless carry associations with the type 3 navel gaze. Instances of the type 4 navel gaze are notably absent here, however, as appearances of the navel are strictly female and placed within the context of male desire. A similarly complex example can be found in Captain Jack's 1999 cover of this song titled In the Navy 99, XXL Disaster Remix. This version was featured in the second mix and third mix of the video game Dance Dance Revolution, both likewise released in 1999.
Are you ready?
The background imagery during gameplay features a woman whose navel area is tantalizingly obscured by the track title. Given that the artist is Captain Jack and the clapping passages are notably absent in this rendition, we can assume a heterosexual connotation in the camera's gaze. However, given the song's initial ties to the village people, we may also potentially associate it with homoeroticism. This is therefore an exceptionally ambiguous example of type mixing, one predominantly reliant on the music itself rather than visual aspects. Such cases of ambiguity seem the most promising area for future research. For instance, the 1989 music video for Cher's If I Could Turn Back Time contains clear elements of navel gaze types 1 and 2 on its surface.
Words are like weapons, they wound sometimes.
However, a semiotic lens taking Cher as gay icon could lead to a multitude of other interpretations. In addition, the video lays bare an intriguing opportunity for engagement with the scholarship presented by Ryan Thompson and by Dan Blim at our first annual AMS After Dark panel in 2016. I salute their work and that of anyone pressing forward on these topics. With that, I wish to thank you all for watching. Now, anchors away for Q&A.
When the mornings seem dark, even when the sun is shining, when you spend more time in the tiny windowless office you share with 7 other adjuncts than you do with your friends, family, or even your students, when you shudder at the mere thought of even reading the briefest email from the dean. If you've struggled with academia before, if you've tried everything to please search committees and nothing seems to help, now there's Alt-Ac, an approved alternative to neoliberal academe. Independent studies have shown that Alt-Ac's unique properties stimulate the brain's neurotransmitters more gently than the typical academic position. Several study participants reported relief from institutional burnout within as little as 2 weeks. You deserve to feel the sunshine, to feel present in the moment, to have energy, to be yourself again. You deserve to be paid a livable wage for your expertise, transferable skills, and emotional labor. You deserve health insurance and job security. You deserve a fulfilling career. Though Alt-Tech users experience less side effects than with common academic posts, side effects may still include disdain from elitist academic snobs, as well as existential dread, climate change angst, capitalist lethargy, temporary confusion, temporary euphoria, and temporary increase in anxiety, while the body adjusts to its new environment. F*** the haters. Ask your support team about Alt-Ac today.